Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and you are lucky enough to be here for the January 2016 PracticeMaster Virtual User Group Meeting, where today we are talking about everything that's new in PracticeMaster in version 18. And if you're wondering, how do I get version 18? Is version 18 out yet? Can we talk about version 18? Can we get version 18? We will go over all those details after we show you everything that's new.
I need keyboard and mouse, please.
You need keyboard and mouse? Are you serious?
I do. I asked for it. You didn't give it to me again.
I did give it to you. We really have to figure out why GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar does not like you. So,
well, I'm going to talk about what's new in PracticeMaster regarding fee and cost entry. So while Paul is giving me control of the screen, which we know he does not like to give up, I think that's all the whole root of the issue. We won't go there. PracticeMaster now will... I don't think so, Paul. I still don't have it.
There you
Maybe I got it? Okay. All right. So when I am in a fee entry in PracticeMaster, before when we would add a new fee, you would not be able to see the rate or the amount until you hit the Save button. And then out on the screen, on the regular screen, you could see it. Now in version 18, they have displayed the rate and the amount when you go to save a fee entry, which is great because then there's no second guessing. There's no somebody putting in the wrong rate because they don't think it's there. All of those kinds of things have been eliminated. The other thing on the screen that's new is the rate code down below, and the sales tax from tabs is now showing in PracticeMaster. You didn't used to be able to see those things on the PracticeMaster screen. The amount is automatically recalculated just like it does in tabs when the timekeeper date or the transaction code or the activity code or expense ID is changed. And the budget exceeded. If you set a budget in tabs and you come in and put a time entry in PracticeMaster, that budget exceeded message will pop up over in PracticeMaster as well. And finally, the user ID and the date created fields have been added to the actual form layout, which is something that is behind the scenes that you probably don't care too much about. So totally new way of looking at things in PracticeMaster. I think it's great because attorneys are usually over there. We want them to see some of this information up front. So that works out very well.
We have some firms that have their attorneys in tabs to enter time simply because they don't have these features in PracticeMaster, and now they are there. Now, another new thing that appears here is the fee recap. And there it is. Thank you, Mary Jo. Mary Jo's sensing my panic as I look at these buttons down here and I don't see it. That's because it's up here. When you are in a fee entry screen, the fee recap button shows up right here. And this is your recap of hours. This used to only show up if you were entering time in tabs. Huge, huge, huge. One thing that also is new on this screen, although this will be new to anybody in PracticeMaster, but if you've seen it before in tabs, we didn't have this total at the bottom. We used to just show total billable, total non-billable, but no total of those two numbers. That's there now. And so what this means is that you can move around this screen and see the time that this person has entered so far in PracticeMaster or tabs for these dates. Obviously, Michael Jensen hasn't entered any time. Let's see if we choose Ron instead, because you can change the timekeeper that you're looking at. And no, we don't have any time there. So apparently, demo-wise, did we get into the wrong year here, Mary Jo?
I don't know.
Interesting.
It doesn't matter. If you pick a date and there's in the timekeeper,
it'll show you how much billable, how much non-billable time. And if you do have time there, you can actually double-click and drop down and actually edit time this way and see what the individual transactions were.
Now, as in the fee recap report in tabs, in PracticeMaster, when you click on this view, you can't print this list here of all those entries. But PracticeMaster has now, just like we have like a transaction file list in tabs, they've now added 4 new fee recap reports to the report writer. So if you come over to Report Writer, we're just going to get out of this fee entry here and get out of this stuff, and go to Reports. And if I go into our Report Writer, there are now 4 new reports. One is called the Detail Fee Recap. That is up here. It is underneath the fee DT, let me find it here, DT recap right here. So here's our detail fee recap. We've got a billable, non-billable hours recap, which is right underneath that. And then we have the total hours for the week. So there's your total worked hours for the week. And finally, we have the fee week recap, which is right here. So there's 4 new reports that are now in there for you to print off. So these are huge as well. Gives a lot more flexibility on what you can see and what you can't see.
This next thing is for the nerdy at heart. If you have ever gone into the form designer, and if you haven't, don't worry. It's not something that most people go into. But if you have, this is where you go to actually lay out how the screens look in PracticeMaster. So you can actually move fields around and things. We have a couple things that come into play here. One is that now when you move something around, it's going to snap to a grid if you tell it to. It's going to snap to that vertical line that shows up, those red lines. So it used to be extremely difficult to get this to line up against this, against this, against that. Now with this snap, you see those lines that come up, it's going to snap right in place so that your left of your fields and your right of your label boxes are always in line. We also now have the ability to set that snap to grid and set those magnetic snaps on and off. So if you don't want them at some point, you can turn them off, but most of the time you're going to have them on. We're also able to define the spacing and define how your grids are done. And then we've added some more options here in the align, the equalize horizontal spacing, equalize vertical spacing. These allow it to automatically put the right amount of space between these fields without you having to try and snap it, without you having to try and move it manually. So all of these things are designed to make it easier to add fields. We also have these buttons up here that do the same thing that I'm trying to get to with my right click. We can set the magnetic snaps and we can set the snap to grid there. So these are all designed for those people that have to come in here and modify these reports. We can tell it, for instance, we don't want the grids on anymore. And now, well, now I think I did turn the grids on, and we can turn the magnetic stripes or snaps on and off as well. Okay. There you go.
Okay. So we're not going to save those,
no.
So we don't need to save those changes there. And those are just your screens. Those are probably going to be just managers that are in there. It's not the average user that's going to be doing that.
Let's just say that I'm excited about it.
Because Paul's a nerd. He is self-proclaimed. All right, so in the calendar, we have some reports here. And so if I were in my daily calendar and I wanted to print that graphical calendar view report, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get over to my calendar reports just so that I can see that. But we have the graphical calendar report right over in here. And so before, what that does is it gives you that the calendar view. So if you're doing a month or a week, you're going to see each of those blocks and see what is inside of those blocks. But in the past, what would happen is if you ended up having something that went over, see like you have got this little more here, and if you printed this, that's what would print. You would see the first 2 entries, but then you would see this more. You wouldn't get everything that was on that particular day. And so that's irritating because you want to see the whole day. But obviously this box isn't big enough, and especially when you're printing, to fit all that in. So what they've done in version 18 is they've given us this little agenda button right here. So if I print it in the agenda format and say OK and preview it, I now get this nice still graphical view, so I'm seeing everything on the day, but I'm getting everything for that day. And if I scroll down further, I'd get the next day and so on. So whatever I'm doing for that agenda view, for whatever date range I've put in there, that's what I'm going to see. So much better for printing purposes. Very neat. It still gives us everything that we want, but it gives us everything, not just a little more sign.
Now, the next one is one of those things that falls into the category of exciting but not that exciting. In other words, when I show it to you, it's not a big deal. But there is now a report under synchronization. If we go into integration and Outlook synchronization, there is now the ability to print a report that shows exactly how the settings are set for every user that has Outlook synchronization on. Not very exciting. You're like, okay, big deal. Who cares? Well, it is exciting if you've ever had to deal with Outlook synchronization, because in the past, the only way to know how everybody is set, and we're talking about big firms with 80 or 90 users, is to go to each of those person's desks and check what their settings are. Okay? So it is a big deal to be able to print this report that shows you each user that has synchronization turned on and what their settings are set to, because now you can do that from your desk as an administrator or a manager without having to go to each person's machine to try and figure out what it is that their Outlook settings are set to, or what it is that everyone's Outlook settings are set to. So big deal, not that exciting when you look at it on face value, but it's big for anybody that's ever had to deal with it before.
Okay, next is the Matter Manager. They've made some changes with that. So anytime that you're on a list tab in any of the areas, if it's client or calendar or wherever, if I'm on this list tab, there's 3 new ways that you can get to Matter Manager. So you can do it on the Take Action screen over in Quick Click. So under here, you can go right over here to Matter Manager, and I can open it. And whatever record I have selected, that's where it's going to open to Matter Manager. So if I'm on Kelly White and I click Matter Manager, I'm going to be taken over to Matter Manager for Kelly White for that matter. Huge. The other way you can do this is if you are on the Edit, up under the Edit menu, you can also get to Matter Manager from here. If I can find where it is. Maybe I'm on the wrong thing. It's on from the Action Group of the Edit menu. Did I miss my Action Group, Paul? There it is. I went right by it. I'm like, I can see it. I just can't see it. There it is. So under the Action, you can get to Matter Manager there, or you can do it from the right-click menu. So I'm just going to right-click, and I can also get to Action, and I can go to Matter Manager from there. So 3 ways that you can get to Matter Manager very quickly and go directly to whatever record it is that you're on and open Matter Manager. Also, if you've got a file record open, so if I'm over here and I go up and just click on the Matter Manager up here on my screen, it too is going to take me out to 415, and it's going to take me in there. So you can either use the taskbar icon, or you can go in and do the action and take action and do it that way. So.
Okay, the next one we can't really show you because we don't have a ScanSnap hooked up, but PracticeMaster now has a toolbar plugin that will enable a button in ScanSnap directly. So if you have a Fujitsu ScanSnap and you scan a document and you want to save it to PracticeMaster, you've always been able to do that before, but you would first have to save it to the computer and then maybe open it up in Adobe and use Adobe's button, or maybe just manually create that record. Now, straight from ScanSnap, you can simply hit a button that says send to ScanSnap, or send to PracticeMaster, and a document management record will be created. Okay, I'm going to talk about one more thing, and then we're going to answer a question. We now have support for embedded fonts in PDF files. That simply means that a PDF should be a total representation of what you see on your screen when you send it to somebody else. But in prior versions of tabs in PracticeMaster, if the person who received your PDF that you created in PracticeMaster did not have the exact font it was created with, then they might not see it laid out exactly the same way. But now PracticeMaster has a checkbox that you can check when you're setting up a printer that will allow you to embed those fonts in the PDF. So if when a PDF is created now, if that's enabled, those fonts will automatically be embedded in the PDF so that whether or not the person who receives it has those fonts, they'll still see the PDF exactly the way you saw it when you just before you sent it to them. And Leanne, tell us what the question is.
The question is there a way to auto-populate certain T codes? So enter a T code that will auto-enter every month after entered each month. Oh, rather than enter each one each month. Sorry about that.
I'm not quite following what the question is.
Let me try to read it again. Is there a way to auto-populate certain T codes? Enter T codes that will auto-enter every month rather than enter each one every month.
I'm guessing this is talking about a fee entry. I'm not sure if the question is to automatically populate a new fee entry with the same information, like a monthly billing kind of a thing, and save it, or if you're talking about just making sure that the description in the transaction code is the same all the time, or if you want to change it. I guess I'm not understanding that. And I don't know that that's a new feature that we just talked about, so I'm not sure if that has anything. I guess maybe Leanne, get some clarification on that question, and maybe we'll come back to it at the end. Okay, I'm going to go to the date range. In the past, the previous date range was 1/1/0100 through 12/31 of 9999. Now they have changed that, so in PracticeMaster, you can now use a date of 1/1/1753 through 12/31 of 2199. So date fields in PracticeMaster that integrate with tabs will have that limited date range that you can use, but if it's in PracticeMaster only, it will go to the 2199. And then just real quick, I'm going to jump into the support log and let Paul take the last couple of things here with the contacts. But for the support log, if you've never looked at the View support log, it's in here. So if I go into my View log files support log, there are lots of different things that you can check and see who did what. Now, not everything, but there are some really nice features in here. So I could say specific feature, and I could say I want to know for a certain date range if somebody did, was in file maintenance, or if somebody did a find and replace, or somebody imported data, all of those things. Well, in version 18, that now tracks whether or not the check email attachments box was selected when a data file integrity check was run. It will also I guess these other things are for general ledger and for system configuration, but those things, that is new. The check email attachments is now one of the things that are in the support log.
In rename contacts, it used to be that it would ask if you, rename contact, by the way, is how you change a contact ID. So if you put in Purdue/Paul to be the contact ID for Paul Purdue, it would ask, do you want to also, and let's say we spelled Purdue wrong. We spelled it P-E-R-D-U-E instead of P-U-R-D-U-E. In order to change that contact ID, you'd need to use rename contact, and you'd say change Purdue P-E-R/Paul to Purdue P-U-R/Paul. And it would ask you in the old versions, do you also want to change full name? So correct the P-E-R to P-U-R in the full name. It now further asks you, do you also want to change how that will affect the first and last name? Because those two fields in PracticeMaster's contact file are also originally derived from the contact ID. And so it was, in my mind, kind of an oversight in the past that those weren't looked at as well. Now they are.
And I'm just really quick going to just talk about Tapestry Connect, because a lot of times if you've got Platinum and you've got PracticeMaster, you may be using Tapestry Connect. And just a couple of changes that have went through for Tapestry Connect is the fee and cost entry are now also updated so that they can see that rate and for the fees. And you also can, the amount is recalculated just like it would be in there. And the budget exceeded messages are now also popping up in Tapestry Connect. So they've carried that forward for that. And the calendar entries in Tapestry Connect now include the private checkbox, so you can do that when you're adding or changing entries. And the text macros now flow out into Tapestry Connect. So those three things, if you're using Tapestry Connect on Platinum. If you're not and you don't know what that is, definitely give us a call. We can tell you why that is such a great thing if you have Platinum, and we can get you there. Leanne, did you get any clarification?
Yes, a little more detail. So an admin fee T-code 6. She enters this every month for each client. Is there a way to set it up for auto enter?
Well, yes, it's a saved transaction. It's not really a feature of PracticeMaster. I'm going to switch over to tabs real quick and show you that when
I think you can do it in PracticeMaster now too.
Can you really?
Well, I was thinking if they've changed the time. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you there, but if we go into fee and we're just going to add a new fee, because those buttons are down there, is that saved down there in here now? It is not.
See, it's not.
No. Okay, I just wanted to check it because now that they've added in, we need to know that too. So
yeah.
Good question.
So there's a fee. If you go into a fee in tabs and you create this transaction, I'm not going to create exactly what you're thinking for one and whatever and test. There's always been this hold print, but there's also a save option. And what that means is that on the 17th of each month following, or each monthly bill following, this transaction will it'll print on this month's bill, but it won't go away. It'll be saved with next month's date, and it'll show up on next month's bill, and next month, and next month, and next month. And this has been here actually for quite some time. It's the hold print field also has an option of S for save.
And that will stay there. Yeah, that will stay there until you either delete the entry because you don't want to do it anymore, or until you change it back to print. It'll do it one more time, and then it won't go on there anymore. Now, I don't know if this person has tabs. If you've just got PracticeMaster only, then there wouldn't be.
But they wouldn't be printing bills then. So.
Correct. That's true. Yeah. Hey. Good call.
That's why
So hopefully that answered that question, Leanne. If not, maybe we can get a call and
they can email me directly. And
or if they're not, if they're not as scared, they could we could unmute them and just talk to them.
That's right. Okay, so how do we get version 18? Well, first let's very quickly say that next month we are going to talk about fee entry enhancements. So we're going to go into a bit more detail on how those work and those reports and that fee recap. And Mary Jo will cover that topic, and I'm going to show you how to make a quick view out of a filter, because we've been talking about filters for several months now, and we're going to take that one step further and make a quick view. Now, version 18, is it out? Can we get it? When will we get it? A lot of questions there. Yes, it's out. It was released officially for new sales in December, late December of 2015. That means that STI, with every new order, is now shipping version 18. We have a lot of clients that had been on beta. We have updated them to the release copy of version 18, what we call version 18.1. STI typically does what we call a slow roll on their updates. And what that means is that every month or two, they send out notices to a group of people with instructions on how to download version 18 and how to install it. They do this so that their stellar technical support department, tops in the industry actually, is not overwhelmed and is able to provide the level of support that people are used to getting. So they don't want everybody downloading it and asking a million questions all at the same time and bogging down their tech support. Now, if you have not heard from STI and it comes to a point where you'd like to have that even though you haven't heard from them, all you need to do is send me an email, paul.purdue, like the school, not the chicken, P-U-R-D-U-E, and if you're wondering, the chicken is P-E-R-D-U-E, Paul Purdue, P-U-R-D-U-E, paul.purdue at attorneycomputersystems.com. paul.purdue at attorneycomputersystems.com. We will take it from there. We'll get your update for you. We'll send you the instructions. If you want, we'll do it for you. If you don't, you can certainly just take those instructions and do your own update. While we're talking about how to spell Attorney Computer Systems, let's go there in a web browser, because I want to show you Attorney Computer Systems, emphasis on this S here, .com is where you will find all of the recorded content for our VUGs, for our Coffee Pot webinars, which is a monthly webinar series I do, for Mary Jo's eBite video series, for the Paul and Mary Jo Show. All of those things are here, including the tabs, PracticeMaster, and WorldDocs virtual user group meetings. If you want to find out when the next PracticeMaster virtual user group meeting is and what it's about, you just click here. You'll get a short description of the virtual user group itself, a description of the next event, the next meeting, a link here and here to register, and information about what we're going to cover. As you scroll down, you'll find that we actually have recorded copies of all the virtual user group meetings that we've done for years and years and years. And all you need to do is scroll through here and browse and find one you want and click this play button, and you're going to find your 6 hours later, you look up and haven't realized that you've been sitting there for 6 hours watching our virtual user group meetings. You can also search, so if we type version 18, it pops up with a list of suggestions, and we can also just type version 18 and hit enter, and it will take us to a list of content specifically dealing with version 18. So utilize the search buttons, utilize the drop-down, and kind of browse through, but please take advantage of this. This video content is there ready for you to use. That's it for today. Everybody have a good rest of the month, and we will see you in February. Thanks much. Bye-bye.